Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and welcome to the world after the Blight. So, we are continuing our delve into what I'm calling pocket sized tabletop role playing games, not necessarily rules light, but instead a way to introduce players who are used to classic fantasy D20 and something that I think has a unique setting or mechanism and I think deserves a little bit of a shout out. So this is Dead Air Seasons, and this game was developed inside of and for the World Anvil. So if any of you guys um, are familiar with the World Anvil is an online resource to for storytellers, novelists, and tabletop role-playing game creators, and it digitally organizes and walks you through the world building process. It is extremely detailed. This game came about because of a world that was being built and uses a game system developed within the structure of World Anvil. So this is a post-apocalyptic game about the Blight. Okay, I don't believe that they could get in legal trouble, but if you have any familiarity with oh, what's the HBO series based off of the video game, um, the Left Behind, not Left Behind, um, series. Anyway, it, yes, this has fungal spores and mycelial networks. Yes, this is about zombies called the Awakened, not necessarily plant like zombies. Yes, this is that world, but it's a bit more detailed and it has a storytelling procedure that I think is very interesting. It's very amazing. So here we have our physical books, Dead Air Seasons, and as I open the book for the interior, I apologize for having too much of a glow here. I want to turn this down. The Last of Us. Thank you, Drew. Who I get too many brain farts. It's the Last of Us series, and if someone says, "Is this the Last of Us tabletop role playing game?" Yeah. Yes. I'll try not to make parallels. You can make those parallels yourself as we get into the game. I don't want to get them in trouble. And of course, as a role playing game, we can get into a lot more detail with this, but it's called Dead Air Seasons. And there's a follow up book that has basically from the Kickstarter, it was like the extra content, uh, simply known as Brave New World, and it has like other concepts in it, communities and regions, and I like the flow of this game. So let's open up our credits, and then I'll show you the PDF's version of this. This is the credits page. This game is very the creators are Italian based and they have a different point of view in terms of tabletop role playing games. And it has a very deceptive mechanical feature in it that I really like. So if here at the bottom, we have ourselves the symbol for the World Anvil, logo for the World Anvil. Monad Echo is the free OGL SRD for this game that is available on the World Anvil, and of course Dead Air Seasons, and it goes into description, a table of contents, and that kind of thing. So many times when introducing a game, I tend not to be the person that goes into the mechanics, but let's jump straight into the mechanics first of all, so and get that out the way, so we can talk about the narrative element of this game. And I think you guys really like it. It's very deceptive. So the this game uses a D6 dice pool. Now these are my 12-sided D6 dice, so don't get too weirded out by it. So the game operates in a very small dice pool. You won't need more than 6 D6s, and then at no more than 3. You don't need more than 12 dice, and 6 of them are going to be no more than 6 of them are going to be your basic dice. Those are the dice that you're going to roll. They're neither positive or negative. They're going to be based on characters' capabilities and statistics and skills. And you're not going to roll more than 6 of them. There's also advantages and disadvantages. Advantages with when players utilize some of their equipment or skills or things known as gifts. And so you're not going to have more than 3 of them. And then you're going to also have disadvantages, things working against the player characters. There may be conditions that are present within the region, or something happened previously that's affecting the character. And so you won't need more than 3 of them. Advantages and disadvantages cancel each other out. So you won't be rolling 3 advantages along with 3 disadvantages. Essentially, if you've got 2 advantages, if you have 2 advantages and 1 disadvantage, 2 of them wipe each other out. So you're going to roll with your regular dice, maybe 4, since that's what I have here, plus an advantage. And why I say this is deceptive is because whatever your statistics are, instead of those statistics usually ranging from 2 to 5, 1 to 6 is your range. Characters preferably are within 2 to 5. 6 makes you very superhuman, and 1 makes you rather young or feeble or injured. And you're going to grab your dice, and whether it's an advantage or some disadvantages in there, you're going to keep adding dice to this. And the reason for that is normally whatever your skill or attribute number is, that's how many successes you automatically gain. So if you have a strength of 4, you have 4 successes. These are whatever the challenge is. So if breaking down a door requires 3 or more successes and your strength is 4, you've already gotten those. Don't bother rolling the dice. It very easily gets rid of that. Whatever your score is and whatever the challenge rating, simply called an OL or opposition level. We know many role-playing games have their own versions of this. Then you don't even need to roll the dice. You already have it, except for one thing that is strange. The default of the game is that every time you roll, it comes with a complication. So the default setting of like a strength score of 4, sure, I've got a strength of 4 to knock down the door. You only need a 3 or higher. I've got a 4. I've got 4 successes. I don't even need to roll the dice. But that's if I'm willing to accept a complication. A sprained shoulder, a dislocated shoulder, being stunned after I'd knock the door down off of its hinges, or fall prone as I fall through the door, or something important in my backpack breaks that I choose to break or lose, or have malfunction when I break through the door, some kind of complication. So the default of the game is I could keep progressing in the game, but have stacking complications because of what I want to do. But if I want to avoid those complications, I'm going to have to roll dice. And so my strength of 4, I roll the dice, and you succeed on a 2 to 6. So here's where I say it's deceptive. Most dice pool games, hey, I keep adding some more dice. Great, I get more dice. I get the roll, but I fail if I come up with a single number 1. I fail. So if I roll the dice here, the more dice I roll, the greater chance I have of failure, but it feels good to have more dice. So when extra dice are added to this dice pool and they're disadvantaged dice, I'm rolling more dice, but the chances of failure of rolling a 1, it just compounds. I rolled 3 of them in here, and I keep rolling 1s. Okay, so It is a bit of a deceptive dice pull mechanic, and I like it. Now, standard dice, if I roll a one, I fail. If they are advantage dice and I roll a one, it is a neutral. It's not a success, but it's neutral. There's no downside to it. It's just not count. Wow, I set the dice down in double ones. So these two advantage dice just wouldn't count. It doesn't count for my successes, but it won't count against me. If instead these two dice were replaced with two disadvantage dice, they fail if I roll a one or a two. I know I went into some detail about that, but essentially, you fail on a if you roll your dice pool, you fail on a one. If it's an advantage, if you roll a one, it's neither a success or a failure. And if you're rolling extra dice and they are disadvantaged dice, um, then the total of a one or a two on the disadvantage dice is a failure. So, for example, in the game, you could roll three dice. I actually went down on a one. You could roll three of these dice. You may roll two dice and a disadvantage. You may roll two dice and an advantage. You could possibly roll one die and two advantages, or again, two dice and two disadvantages. So you may three different characters could roll three dice, but the type of dice you choose depends on your outcome. And like I said, the default in this game is complication. Very, very fate like, very powered by the apocalypse. It's more about story than plot. So a character that feels bad or is guilty or has a devotion to someone will perform better in an action than a character who doesn't have um, their emotions or background or some kind of trigger in that particular scene. Okay, we're done with the mechanic. We're done with the mechanic. Let's get into the game. Let me share out. Uh, which one should I share out first? Um, let's go with. You know what? Let's go with the SRD. Let's do that. So this is the free SRD. This is the game itself, minus all of the details. It is 115 pages, but don't worry, it's got a lot of blank spaces in it, and this just tells you how the mechanisms of the game work and the gifts and things like that. You can go over to the World Anvil. I didn't realize it was called the World Anvil. Not sure if it's pronounced the or the, but the World Anvil has this available for you guys, and you can go ahead and take it and find it. So this game talks about all of the principles. It is very, like I said, powered by the apocalypse, fate, um, forged in the dark. It is very much like that, where you have these descriptors for your character that places you into the world. So we'll get this. Third party has the third party license, and yes, there is artwork in this SRD, and it basically walks you through creating your own game, including including breakout boxes for how it's been used for games that have come from the World Anvil, as well as breakout boxes like, here's what our intention was, and how we think the game should progress at the table. For example, we do have a large breakout box here where it talks about the aesthetics of the table and what they feel this game system will feel like at your table, and talks about descriptors and how the descriptors work, things of that nature. All right, let's get into the core book. This is Dead Air Seasons, and Dead Air Seasons. I'll even expand this out to a two-page spread. Dead Air Seasons is a post-apocalyptic game in which ecological damage has been done to the earth so badly that the earth has rebelled back. Now, the specifics of how it got about that way? Was there a nanotechnology or biotechnology used to create something known as the panacea, just to reverse the damage done to planet Earth? Yes. Is is it the fact that we screwed up the planet Earth, and maybe there are people who believe that the Earth is coming back at us and that we are no longer at the top of the food chain? Yes, and all of the above. It's a world in which maybe some people have forgotten what the old world was like, and so this game is very, very, very much a post-apocalyptic uh, setting, including the fact that not only will you create your own personal player characters, but there's also something known as community creation. And so you will create the community that your player characters are attached to. Maybe you were rescued by them, you were born and raised in that community. Maybe you find that community to be the best for you until they up and die from the awakened that are wandering around. The awakened are like zombies and such, and so on and so forth. It is very post-apocalyptic. We classic post-apocalyptic methods of communities tucked into different regions around the world, especially in a post-apocalyptic setting that you're familiar with, maybe your hometown or your home city or state, and it embraces that. And so you will make a community character sheet and decide what your community has, and then the game goes through a the reason why it's called Dead Air Seasons is because the game takes place over seasons in the world. And so when describing um, uh, adventures, you can take your game through seasons as the community tries to survive through spring and then summer, fall, and then winter, and then you move on to the next season. And it's actually very thematic. I really like the idea of playing through seasons, and as the seasons change, there are different things that your community will go through. They will go through a crisis, and then what happens at the end of that crisis that changes your community. That community then has mechanical features that will work for or against the player characters, and then we do that cycle over again. How do the player characters um, recover and whatnot? There's even some creepy artwork here, things like that. Like, for example, it looks like there's someone standing here in the distance with a baseball bat. It's got that scatterpunk style art that I really like for this game. And it also has like the artwork combines the living plant-like vegetative world and color scheme in this game. And if you take a look, they will throw something in. It looks like this person has high heels, but those aren't high heels. Those are hands where their feet should be. So yeah, pretty weird. Mm-mm-mm. Marking time. Um, let me come on, chat. There we go. Heath Geekford. Hey, hey. Good morning. Regarding how to pronounce I would say it is easy. If you ask yourself if it's if it is a world or an world. Ah, okay, okay. It because I believe it is the world anvil, not the world anvil. It is a I believe it is a singular entity, so I will call it the. And thank you very much for popping by, Heath. I really appreciate it. It's surprising for those who do not know. Please stop by his channel and subscribe. Great stuff over there. I'm just a small cog in a big tabletop role playing game machine. So Dead Air Seasons. Let's go back to Dead. Wrong file. There we go. Dead Air Seasons, again, post apocalyptic, and everything revolves, is motivated by, and manipulated by the Blight. So as I page through here, um, there are elements of the character creation that are going to be it's a symbiotic relationship with your community and your character, the character and your community. And the game talks about the gifts and a special resource in this game known as Soma. Soma is a special resource unique to characters that quantifies a character's ability to tap into their inner strength. Soma is like willpower. I suppose in other games it would be moxie or hero points or fate points or luck, but in this instance is known as Soma. It is an Italian word. I don't know what the meaning is. You guys look that up. I'm not going to do that. So on average, it talks about the opposition levels, and again, player the the players have all the facing dice in the game. So when the players grab dice and they're proactive, they're grabbing dice to perform an action. When something happens against them, we as the MB, known as Master of the Blight, I know games come up with different titles other than Game Master. Some of them are awkward. I think Master of the Blight is too awkward for me. It they shortened it to MB. It's a Game Master. All right, so I'm used to saying Game Master, so I apologize to the creators who call the Master of the Blight. Uh, I suppose as a Master of the Blight or the MB, you represent the world, and the world is consumed by the Blight and these spores and how vegetation has grown everywhere. So I suppose there's some truth to being a Master of the Blight. So opposition levels. Players choose to make things more difficult for themselves. So um, here we have a small table of the general opposition levels or difficulties. And so that number that you put against the players doesn't just represent like damage to them, but it represents how much success they need to overcome that challenge. Monsters, NPCs, regions, environmental effects, everything operates under an OL, an opposition level. And it's very easy to, if you want to make an NPC, all you need to do technically is attach a number, a single digit number to them, and you're done. If you want to figure out if the players need to break iron bars or jump across a crevice or swim through a raging river or something, attach a number to it. If they are in a negotiation or intimidation or bribery social interaction, you just attach a number to it. Remember, the default is rolling the dice or not rolling the dice and suffering a consequence of performing that action or reaction. There's always a consequence unless the players choose to add one or two to the opposition level. Low numbers in this game. You're not going to use many numbers above five or six at all for anything. For what they call wounds or hit points, for rolling dice, most things will never go above a five or six in terms of modifying a number, the number of dice you roll, the amount of things you have to count. Very rarely above five or six, usually in the 3 to 5 range. And so, if you give the players a difficulty of 3, that player can choose. You know what? I'm going to add 1 to it because I'm pretty confident I'll succeed, and I don't want a complication. So you add +1. If they want some kind of bonus of success, they can add 2 to the thing. Hey, not only do I want to distract the guards, but I want the guards to follow me to make it easier for my allies to sneak over the wall. So not only do you want to succeed, you want to make it better for other people. You want a bonus to what you're doing. So then you add +2. The player gets to choose that. It's a little different than the game masters doing those kind of things. So here we are. This is an introduction to checks, and it goes through um, the, the the checks, what the cost is when you roll the dice, and essentially that's what I'm describing to you. They call it position and defense checks. Position is active, what the player's choosing, and defense checks are players being reactive to something that's happening against them. Long story short, it players get far more of a benefit from being active than reactive. Oftentimes, reactive means that you're just avoiding negative consequences. Uh, you're being snuck up on, you're being surprised, things are happening to you. If you're being proactive, players normally not only get successes, but they can choose to get benefits from being proactive. Very rarely do you have benefits from being reactive. So there is a meta in the game that tells you like, hey, this is what's going to happen. As you can tell with the layout, as I'm paging through this, the layout uses a lot of like purples, greens, browns in this game, and to differentiate like the colors, and so it does give you this idea of like fungus, and the blight is vegetation, but don't get it twisted. It's not all butterflies and like smelling the roses and things like that. It's a little bit more. Uh, it's less flowery and more insidious. So it's more, like I said, more fungus and fungus, mucus, um, mold type weeds, spores, more so than anything else. Let's see what you guys have to say, and then we'll get into more of the details. Oh, I want. Mm-mm. Where is my live stream? There we go. Drew says I hang currently more out on Bacon's channel. Okay, cool. Soma is from Huxley's Brave New World. I think it is based on some Sanskrit word. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was. Okay, damn it, you're gonna make me. Damn it, Drew. Uh, let's see. And let's see what the soma, the body of an organism, all of an organism except the germ cells. Hmm. Let's see if I put Italian. And in Italian, the Italian word soma is a feminine noun that translates to load or burden. For example, bestia de soma translates to beast of burden or pack animal, a load, a burden. Okay, okay. Probably means that and more. All of that combined. All right, so let's continue on. There we go. All right, we have the this just goes into the blight and what the blight is. Essentially, it's vegetation that has taken over the world. There's contamination, and and the contamination is something that is has a numerical value. You can acquire contamination. There is a character trait called PNR, which stands for point of no return. PNR is your classic. I was bitten on my arm by a zombie. When the hell do I transform? And that's what PNR, point of no return. Point of no return, more so in this game than other games, it represents your hit points. It represents when your character is going to die, when and if, and the numerical value you're going to panic because of that. It supersedes all of your wounds. It supersedes your character statistics. It essentially the point of the PNR, the point of no return, starts to ramp up, and when you get to your point, to your above your point of no return, your character is an NPC. Whether you get transformed, you self delete, you are consumed, you mutate, whatever the case may be, and your character becomes an enemy within the ranks of the community or something like that. Maybe a character, as you reach higher and higher into your point of no return, that becomes the story in and of itself as you try to hide the bite you got on your forearm. Note, we've seen this in plenty of zombie, Walking Dead, etc. Post-apocalyptic worlds with mindless people that are walking around and that are infected, and that is is a part of the character sheet. There are the side effects of the blight. There are some people that are immune. There are some people who are permanently mutated by the blight. There are cults that believe the blight is a good thing because humanity uh, basically ruined the earth, and so there's all kinds of ways to describe it. The characters, and because you're making a community, which I like, you decide what your community is based on, and you use descriptors, basically a couple of lines, 1 to 3 lines of text or more, to describe what your community is about. And when you pick your community descriptors, you pick one that's based on your security of the community, the resources that the community can acquire, and what kind of society that community has. And they have lots of examples. And of course, in books like our second book here, Brave New World, there are whole chapters just devoted to numbers of communities and the types of communities they are, describes them. And yes, the player characters community is no more special than any other community that they may come across. And part of the cycle of the game is you are representatives of your community. When you go out to acquire your resources or find other communities, what are they like? And so you can tell stories about, do the players leave their community or bond with another one, or do they have trade? Are they at war? Did they send spies or usurpers and things of that nature? Maybe the players feel that another community is defenseless and wants to um, help them out. Maybe the player characters are in the winter season in session 3 because they've already gone through spring and summer and fall, and now we're getting into a session, or maybe we're getting into session 4, the beginning of it, and we've already gotten 3 sessions under our belt. Session 4 starts winter. Players are like, okay, MB, Master of the Blight, what about that community that we thought wasn't going to survive? And you may tell them, depends. If you leave your community during the winter, you won't be able to come back. So you got to make a choice. Do you stay home or do you go to this other community and help them protect themselves and batten down the hatches during the winter season? And that could be a story in and of itself. Heck, you could even have a story where the players are trapped with a community that they're opposed to, but it's the winter season, and neither the adversaries or the players themselves want to destroy what's around them because it's protecting them from the blight from the outside. Each community does have a gift, just like player characters. There are gifts, and these are examples of gifts like Eagle's Nest, Farmhouse, Game Palace, and those gifts. Um, you can activate a gift by spending soma. Some gifts actually let you um, recover soma, but for the most part, gifts either cost you soma. Sometimes gifts require you to set up a specific set of circumstances, or a gift, you in order to activate a gift, you may spend some other resource on your character sheet. Mm-mm. And these are all like military discipline, promised land, and of course you can mix and match these. And actually, creating communities is actually kind of just as fun as creating characters. So if you have a player that suffers from constant character creation disease, give them the community creation rules and let them go to work and create these new communities for this post-apocalyptic world. Maybe you know, maybe 1 out of 3 communities they create is really interesting and it can kind of fill out the world. Um, excuse me. So instead of creating a map, yes, you can use a hex map or various maps within your state or country or city of origin, which makes you very familiar with with the geographics. You don't really need to do that. Instead, this is more like a point crawl, classic point crawl, where you can have communities that are designated points that are like a circle, that come that as the players travel further and further away from their own community, they become the gravity, and all the other communities starts surround the player characters. And wherever you have it, whether it's near like um, a coastline or something like that, whatever. So this is we're going to get into character creation. Let's see what you guys have to say. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh, you're okay there, Shice. Damn, this sounds like a game I'd like. Going to have to review the first 30 minutes later. Oh, okay, sure. Um, Character creation and character concepts. Uh, when creating character concepts, your stats pretty don't really don't get caught up thinking about character statistics. The meat and butter, the energy that is your character are your descriptors. And so there are character concepts that you can create when you but the main part of character creation are your descriptors. And let's go to okay, this here we go. It is right here. All right. And your descriptors, instead of just coming up with random descriptors, um, they have a four-step process for descriptors for your character. So you're going to describe your first descriptor as yesterday's world. It determines who the character was before the blight changed the world forever. Now, if your character is very young, you may not remember much about yesterday's world, or you could be elderly, or maybe the blight hadn't reached your community yet while it spread across the world. Then the second one is along the way, explores the period of transition between the old and new world. So, what descriptor describes your character? Maybe you were a bus driver in yesterday's world, but along the way you became a hardened survivalist or something. And then your third one is today's world, describes what the character does now and how it relates to the world and to a world contaminated by the blight. So maybe you were a bus driver, became a hardened survivalist, but now you understand the value of a community. And then your last one is tomorrow's world, defines what gives the character the strength to carry on. So, what are you looking for? Are you looking for family that you now believe there's evidence that they still exist? Are you looking for um, a community of peace and tranquility, even though there's great anger and pain and destruction inside of you? Uh, so on and so forth. Are you hoping tomorrow's world? Are you hoping no one finds out a deep dark secret that you were the cause of a very large community to spiral down and to be taken over and destroyed, and that the other members of the community may find that out? Uh, so on and so forth. And so when describing your making your descriptors, you should always have a positive portion of your descriptor, which is described over here as in first person. I know, I use, I get, I own, I am, I desire, I do something. It's the I am afraid of. I am an expert at. I use a device. I use my personality. I desire a better, I own a, I know how to. So everything is I. Very first person. And then you have a downside. So along with your positive descriptor, you should have some kind of downside. It says something that represents a potential problem for the character, the downside. So, for example, here, let's go with Marcus. So when we go with Marcus, uh, Marcus Marcus's four descriptors are: I hit hard, and sometimes it's hard to stop the rage inside me. I look like a mother effing guard, but I am afraid that sooner or later someone will find out who I really am. Rufus and I are a team, and I'm scared shitless of losing him. And last one is: I will not allow harm to come to my comrades, but my rough nature means many are still afraid of me. So that's how descriptors are made. That's the main part of creating your character. And then of course there's character archetypes, and they go into the descriptors of the archetypes. Each archetype has their own gifts. Uh, don't think of gifts as like magic powers, which 99% of them aren't. It's just like your archetype could be athlete, leader, fighter, manipulator, savant, criminal, expert, and they have them listed here generally. And then they talk about using gifts and what triggers the gift. Some very simple triggers for gifts might be rolling a one, a failure, or it could be um, stepping in front of a danger so that you become the target of that danger. Sometimes it's helping another NPC or something like that, and there may be a soma cost. And then it talks about character attributes. We got as the character creation process is, your attributes are kind of secondary. So your attributes just tell you how many dice you get to roll for different things, and they have a dice attribute profile. There are 5 attributes, and they tell you which numbers. It adds up to 15, and it tells you which numbers you should. No, it isn't 5, 8. Yeah, it's 13. Okay. Whether you want to be versatile, focused, or a specialist, and you pick those numbers and apply them to your attributes. I don't remember all the attributes, but we'll get into that part. And it has equipment. Here's a character wounds. Here's a point of no return (PNR), and you really need to watch your PNR. Wounds you can heal. The PNR is like a one-way trip, and then you end up doing something between what they call walking between worlds, and that's where your character, it's possible for your character to continue to survive, but you'll pick up traits from the blight, and others may notice that. And heck, there may even be animals and things like that that can sense it on you that even other player characters cannot sense. And then, of course, there's bonds between players and how that works in the game and how that benefits you, and bonds with NPCs, and having certain bonds can actually help you out, like healing, healing you and regaining soma and things like that. And then we have character gifts. Lower just a little bit. So, for example, we have the athlete, and these gifts are similar to feats in other role playing games. You're not going to have a ton of. You don't need to memorize a ton of these gifts. Characters may have between 1 and 3, and you may gain them through advancement. So, for example, the athlete, this character is an athlete, and as an archetype. So, one gift is acrobat, cross country runner, maybe strong is just simply one. It talks about the soma cost, which has a soma cost of 2. Um, Infallible aim, things of that nature, and you mix and match them. So similar characters, even if 2 characters make the same athlete, your descriptors and your gifts will make them different enough that you rarely come across duplicates. This is not a class-based system. So let's see. Let's go away from these. Criminal. Here we have the expert. The explorer and the leader are others. And in the second book, there are other archetypes that you can pick from. So, and there's generic gifts as well. So, specific gifts under a specific archetype are only available to them, at least in the beginning of the game. And then there's generic gifts that are available to everybody. And you can pick some, like a follower or luck or maybe a diehard. And some of these are real simple, like under diehard, you can suffer 1 additional wound and it costs 1 soma. Or you have an animal companion, which is very fun. Or disappearing in the crowd, or immune to pain, things like that. Survivor's instinct. And there's blight gifts, and then crisis and seasons of the blight. I think this is the best part. So when starting the cycle of the gameplay, one of the great things to do is create a crisis to start the season out for the community, and then the players move from there. It's kind of like it's a quantum element in the game. So um everyone knows there's going to be a crisis at the community, period. That's just how the game works. Otherwise, uh you have to look past the does that mean we can never retire part of this game. It is post-apocalyptic, so I suppose only having 1 crisis a season means that you do have periods of peace every 3 months. Uh, but understand that no matter how peaceful and how much protection a community has, they will always have a crisis. Otherwise, there would be no drama in the game. So the crisis starts out a season. Mind you, you don't need to stick to seasons. You could have a crisis every day or every week, but this is just a suggestion. So you create a crisis that the players need to have. There's triggers that are involved in how the crisis goes along. Um, so the trigger is what causes the crisis. Is it a landslide? Is it a natural environment? Landslide, flooding, brutal winter, famine, something like that. Is it a menace? What is the menace that's going to happen? Will our community get washed away? Are there usurpers inside of our community? Is there a disease running rampant? And then there's conditions for a positive outcome. So the conditions for a positive outcome are, what can we do to successfully resolve this? And the players should know or uncover in some regard, like, how do we stop this thing? So let's say there is a disease running rampant and the crisis is a disease. Uh, the trigger is they have to keep people quarantined and people in the community don't want to be quarantined. The menace is the disease. The positive outcome is, over, if we go through no man's land, we know that there might be a cache of drugs, penicillin or antibiotics that can help with this disease. We have to go get that thing. Or maybe we can contact the local community to get it to us. Or, and then players come up with ideas. How do we get that medicine? How do we get it back here and apply it to the people? And also, how do we keep people from becoming stir crazy by separating loved ones who must be quarantined, but everybody wants to be close together? And that creates drama and whatnot. And then, of course, through these crises, there's a little table here where you roll a d6 plus the plus your season counter. Season counter is like a numerical number that you add to your community, and that counter keeps going up. You want to keep that counter low, so which represents their safety. And you roll a d6 plus that number, which is at least a 1, but you could add like 5 d6 plus 5. So let me roll a die, d6 plus 2. So I rolled an 8. I just picked a random number, and under 8, then you just decide what happens. The higher the number, the more detrimental it is to the community. A community in the region with which the characters or their allies are dealing is consumed by the blight in a matter of days. The reason is still unknown. Some of its members survive, but the blight has taken its toll, and they are now walkers waiting to mutate. So maybe the local community that the players had trade with, clean water, fruits, ammo, medicines, they've been taken over now. And then that starts the next season. What do the players decide to do? Do they cut off communications? Do they try to go for the survivors? Do they collect the medicine that was left behind by these people who are creating it, et cetera, et cetera? And here we have region creation tools, and the region creation tools are a I was about to say a tool to create regions. Is self-explanatory. Regions: mountainous, jungle, oceanside, or more specific. It is the old. I'm looking at the buildings here. It is an old historic region. It is a large number of skyscrapers. It is a ocean liner or a cargo ship that ran aground. It is an airport with a number of destroyed planes. It is a non-functioning power plant that is powered by a waterfall, but the waters have been dammed up or something like that. It is an underground complex. It's a nomadic group of dozens of caravanners, RVs or something, anything like that. Um, like a region. A region is more, maybe less mobile. I don't know. Yeah, I think you could have a ship or vehicles or something and kind of represent that. Uh, these are the bad guys here. So I'm going to get to Actually, let me put some artwork up here so you guys can kind of see it. Blitzer. Yeah. All right, let's go to some comments. Mm-mm. Says Miss. Oh, point of no return. PNR stands for point of no return. And let's see if we get some. Let's see if there's a better. I could zero in on this. Perils of the Blight. So yeah. There's hordes. The horde. These are your shamblers, your walkers. These are the blitzers. These are the ones that like sprint. There's others in here. Anointers, bloaters. The Last of Us. Anybody? um, Juggernauts, which are basically a bunch of other awakened fungal undead that are like kind of stuck together and they can kind of fall off of the juggernaut and start coming after you. There's also like the relentless, the nocturnals, the hunters. There's some artwork, and again, it's less zombie and more like fungal alien mutation kind of thing. Um, there's and there's all kinds of others. Here's another one that looks a little bit like those are those horns? What is that? Um, yeah, bloaters. Let's get back to the bloaters. The bloaters. Uh, yes, it sounds like what it is. Um, actually, you know what? You stay. Yeah, damn it, it's not going to stay open. Let me just page. Let's page into the thing. Here we go. Examples of while they don't need this that many descriptors for them. Um, pop down the one. Get this bloater here. And if you take a look on the descriptors, essentially making any kind of adversary, hazard, or anything like that, you basically just make yourself a descriptor. I am a bomb ready to explode. You create yourself an opposition level, which is 4 standard. That's all you need. It can suffer 2 wounds. Like I said, the numbers in this game are not very high. It's more story based and challenge based rather than numbers based. So you're not going to have protracted gun battles. You're not going to have, we have to dwindle the monster down from 87 hit points. It's not that. The most important thing is dealing with the challenge. So remember when I told you that the default of this game is a consequence. So when it says 4 standard, that means players will look at their character sheet, and if they have anything that is 4 or above, they really don't need to roll dice. You can get them to roll dice. Yes. But the standard just means that, you know what? If you have 4 or more, you don't have to roll dice, but anything that you do is going to have a consequence. I trip and fall. I sprain my ankle. I drop my weapon or tool. I go blind. I am exhausted. I break a rib. That's the standard action. I do an action, but I have a consequence. I do an action, I have a consequence. If they don't want to have any consequences, they're going to have to add +1 player choice. If they want to get a benefit, remember I said, oh, I want to distract the bloater and come after me so my allies can like run away and hide, then you add +2. And that's the standard of the game. And you roll the dice. We have ourselves some dice here. Maybe my character has a 4 when you add my stats and skills that I have, and I have a 4. Roll some dice. And again, failure happens on any die that comes up as a 1. Like I said, it's very deceptive because if I roll 2 dice, I have less chance of failure, less chance of a 1 showing up. But if I roll 4 dice, why would I want to roll 4 dice? I want to roll 4 dice because when I have more successes, those successes can cause what they call wounds or losses to take down this enemy, which can suffer 2 wounds. So I want to do at least 1 wound to this thing. Yay, I didn't roll a 1. I got 4 successes, so I can cause 1 wound to this thing. And whatever tools I have narratively available to me, that's what I caused to this creature or something. Or maybe in my description of drawing them away from my allies, that's what happens in the narrative of the game. And so it comes after me. And if you notice, there's no speed score, there's no strength score. It's all OL, opposition level, and you just work from there. Now, some monsters or enemies you might want to increase or lower, like, oh, it's pretty stupid. If you're trying to trick it, I'll let the opposition level be a 2 instead of a 4. Like, you could do that on the fly. It's very easy to do that. But lastly, it does have a gift. Um, Gifts are attached to people, places, and things. Gift is just a generalized word that something unique is about this person, place, or thing that can take place. Like this says, when a bloater is hit, it immediately emits a cloud of spores into the air that can affect anyone within a few feet. These spores remain attached to the fabric of the clothes and continue. Oops, I clicked it too much. Continue to contaminate them until the master of blight decides otherwise. They have to be gotten rid of immediately, or the clothes will inflict 1 additional contamination point at the start of the next scene, both on the wearer and those nearby. So if you take a look at this, it's like it's less numerical. It's like, oh, it'll contaminate them until basically the game master decides otherwise. Now, mind you, that seems a little fuzzy wuzzy, but maybe the player goes, I dive into a pool of water, or I take off my clothes and set them on fire, or I dump that kerosene on my body to kill the spores, even though I know that I could be lit on fire because I've got kerosene all over me. Right. So there is it's fuzzy wuzzy because the players might be very creative in getting rid of this crap that's all over their body, or the player goes, we don't have time for me to do this. We got to keep running and gunning. And the others are like, do I really want to be behind you? Because you've got like fart clouds like all around you, right? And also here's another gift called Toxic Grenade, and so on and so forth. And that's basically all of your classic enemies and such in this game. And then there's like specialists, like hunters and nocturnals, and yeah, hunters. The Atlas is a huge one. Protectors and guardians of the blight. Look at this thing. Opposition level 7. My job is to protect the treasures of the blight. And some of these things are very intelligent, to be honest with you. And it's got 4 gifts and it can take up to 4 wounds. That's pretty rough. That is extremely rough. With the opposition level of 7, that means, and most player characters can't go above a 6, which means you're always taking extra dice to always, or you're always putting yourself at a disadvantage to get more dice to see if you can defeat something. So if I've got 4 dice here and I need extra dice to do a thing, I may need to take up to 3 additional disadvantaged dice just to go after this thing, which means if I roll a 1 or a 2 on my disadvantaged dice or a 1 on my regular dice, I fail. So the more dice I start rolling, the greater chance I have of failing. Interesting system. Also strange because if you succeed on a 2 to 6, it feels like you're constantly succeeding. But really what you're doing is you're gambling with the off chance that failure is going to happen, and you really don't want a lot of failure. A lot of legions, mothers, spawning things. Chimera are animals that are affected by the blight itself. And some of you out there may go like, well, if the blight is part of nature and there are these animals, why would I want to kill them? And your answer to that would be yes. The answer to that is yes. So there's like, of course, they don't have every animal listed. This is a very, it's not rules light, but it's rules simplified. So, power level, is it a standard standard animal, an elite, or a nemesis, and you decide what that is. So is it a tiger cub, or is it a very intelligent tiger with like horns on its head and a crown of fungal spores or something like that? And there's some examples like crimson wolves, flesh bees, and something else. I can't remember what the other one. Lord of the Forest. Look at that thing. Kind of cool. Scarlet moths. But my Mycenial. Let me put this piece of artwork back up here and go back to your comments, if any. I wish the chat was up here. All right. Let's get to the character sheet. I'll show you what Brave New World looks like itself, and then we will get out of here. So here are some. There's also there are also regional hazards as well, other blight manifestations in this world of The Last of Us. Mycenial things. Crimson wind is like the red spores. Crimson zones are areas covered with those spores. Fungal colonies and larvals here. Um, Migrating multitudes of things, and then opponents and other threats. Of course, humanity is usually the biggest threat in post-apocalyptic settings. So we have NPCs and NPC gifts, simple NPC gifts. They're standard animals. You could mutate some of those animals to make up your own, because the blight has been advanced evolution so much. You could have, I don't know, squirrels with wings because they live up in these giant office buildings or something, or um, elk or deer or antelope that walk on their hind legs and have hands or something like that. Here are some environmental hazards and things like, and you guys know, these are they just call these threats. Some are very active, some are a little bit more passive unless you mess with them. So we do have things like Blizzard, and if we take a look at Blizzard written just like monsters and NPCs, same thing, a descriptor and an opposition level of 6 and a gift. The gift is lost. The blizzard makes communication and coordination difficult, and any check aimed at orientation suffers a 1 drawback die penalty. So again, with the drawback die, maybe you normally roll 3 dice, but automatically you gain a drawback die, the ones with the red. So you automatically get a drawback die. And remember, if you roll a drawback die, if a 1 or 2 shows up, it's a failure. So, and again, very, very deceptive and tricky numerical system where the more dice you roll, you feel like you're doing better, but it also increases the chance of you rolling a 1, or with the drawback die, a 1 or a 2. Blizzards, droughts, labyrinth of fire, which I like. Being inside a burning building or forest is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Fire moves unpredictably, burning the skin and raising swirls of smoke that obstruct the airways and irritate the eyes, reducing your field of vision. And descriptor, an opposition level of 7, and in flames. Fire destroys the character's clothing or a piece of equipment. Real simple, right? Real simple. And again, remember the default to this is a complication. This complication, fire destroys the character's clothing or a piece of equipment, could be that complication. Because it's a narrative game, it's possibility that the player goes, well, could I have some other complication? And we can have that discussion and go, yeah, that makes sense. Turbulent water, swamp, unstable surface, definitely unstable surfaces, rooftops, things like that. And then how to run the game, general advice on running the games and managing checks. Yep. Um, Position checks and defense checks, and it talks about when do you use it, when should you use it, and And then we get towards, creating a living world, world creation, managing NPCs, character bonds, and using those. Basically, like, oh, remember to do this and this thing. Hopes reminds you about memories, hopes, and trauma, and just being careful about those. Not only being careful about those, but understand that that's what the game kind of is about in terms of the player character just descriptors and how they power their gifts and things like that. The statistic known as soma, you use that when you can only use that when one of your descriptors comes into play. So many of your descriptors will be about your memories, your hopes, your trauma, your guilts, your joys, your looking to the future, your bonds with people. And then that triggers your ability to use the soma. Soma allows you to add successes to your event. So if you only have a total athletics of 3, but you need a 4 to jump across that building, and you really don't want to start rolling dice with a disadvantage, you can start using soma to help you jump across that thing. Why do you jump across it? Because one of your loved ones is on the other side and you don't want to be separated from them. It's more emotional, it's more story driven. So your character, you know theoretically, your character could lift a car off of someone, not because they're super strong, but because someone that they've never gotten a chance to apologize to has their leg trapped underneath that car that shifted and trapped their leg, right? So it talks about themes and community and epilogues, and then we get in the final tips about time passing, um, things like that, soundtracks, thought jousting. I like that. And then the appendix with a summary of many things that are in the game that I've been talking about. Just summarized much better than I am. Um, there's things known as interludes. An interlude after the end of a crisis, the character gains something, and an interlude doesn't necessarily have to happen at the end of the session, but it does make sense. It's the everyone takes a break, and that very, very dramatic thing happened, and it took over the gaming session, and now we're going, whew, we got past that, and the next season is coming up, and so you get experience points for surviving. Talks about how much experience points you get if you, like, for example, you get 2 experience points if the crisis has been resolved um, with an outcome with an increment, so on and so forth. And then we get to the very end, which are the character sheets. Let me do a 2-page spread here. Excuse me. And the character sheet is pretty bland. You give it life. So the character sheet has our descriptors. We have, you know what? Let's see if we can. It's a little hard to see. It's, yeah, it's pretty difficult to see. Sorry about, I don't have my cough button. So here we have a character sheet. Um, Name, archetype right at the top. To the right of the character sheet, we have ourselves Soma, which is our power, our luck, our burden, the thing that we carry with us that helps us survive. PNR, point of no return, and then experience points. And all of these numbers are very low. Very, very rarely will they be in double digits. Descriptors. Um, Descriptors and gifts. So we have yesterday's world, and that's where you'll write out who were you before the blight happened, or who were you during the great upheaval. Um, Along the way is your second one. Today's world is your third one, and tomorrow's world is your fourth one. Along the way, what transformed you? Today's world, who are you now? And then tomorrow's world, what are you looking for in the future? And then we have our attributes. Our 5 attributes are body, reaction, mind, presence, and determination. And whenever you perform an action, you will pick one of these. As you see, 1, 2, 3. The stats go up to 7. So 6 is your maximum human potential. 7 means you've been modified some kind of way, like by the blight or something like that. Very rarely will player, yeah, yes, as a player, if you play in this game long enough, you can get a 7, but normal humans don't go above a 6. Players will go between 2 and 5 in the beginning of the game, and they're dots, and that's how many dice. That's not just how many dice you grab, but it's how many successes you have. So again, if you have a body of 4 and to jump across from one rooftop to the other is 4, you actually don't need to roll the dice. But the standard is that you're going to suffer a complication. And so I jump across from one rooftop to the other. Could my complication be I twisted my ankle? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You twist your ankle, that means you run slower than the slowest person. Oh, okay. I'm the last. I can't run faster, so I'll take up the rear end because I'm the rear of the group, and I'll protect the. I'll be the rear guard or something like that. Oh, okay. And you can move on and so forth. There are wounds. If you take a look, players only really get 3 wound classes. Maybe you get a 4th one if you pick a specific type of gift. But yeah, wounds are not very. This is a hit point ablation game. Not at all. Scars are like permanent things that happen to the character when they suffered many wounds. And scars can be classic scars. A scar across the face. You lost an eye. They had to amputate your limb. You have bleeding ulcers or something like that. Other scars could be part of the blight, and you could actually have psychological scars as well. Whenever I hear gunfire, my first instinct is to duck. Things like that. Preparation level. This is quantum equipment. So instead of having to detail a million and one little bits and baubles on your character sheet, you can have like ready, advanced, and apocalyptic preparation levels, and this is like your go bag. This is like, not only do I have a backpack, I got something in my boot, I'm also dragging another thing on my hip, and I tuck stuff away behind that car over there. Right. Whereas maybe I just run light, I carry a backpack, I got stuff in my pockets, and that's it. Or it could be, you know what, I always drag a wagon behind me, and I have an ATV as well, and I always carry like extra 6 gallons of fuel plus, that kind of thing. May slow you down. And then there's 3 iconic items. Iconic items could be something useful, like weapons, a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, or iconic item could be a photograph of a loved one, or a diary, or um, I don't know, a cell phone that you keep struggling to keep powered because you can listen to um, the last text messages of your loved one or something like that. And then this is a community character sheet, just like I talked before. The community character sheet is made up by everybody, and the community itself can benefit the player characters. So communities have gifts, and the players can use those gifts because they're members of the community. And it talks about the seasons of the blight, the season counter to SC, and then event counters, and then there's descriptors for the community, the security of the community, the resources of the community, and the society that it is. And then there's a journal, uh, general journal, how many events that happened during those times, what was a crisis, what was the outcome, and what were the events and the slots that involved those events. And then lastly, this is for game master stuff for the most part, although players could work together with the type of regions that are around there. Is it a coastal place? Is there a abandoned mega city? Is there a military base or old military base? Maybe a zoo or a amusement park or something like that. And those are descriptors and things. Uh, the center hex is where the players start, and then B is write down the sector reference number and result the corresponding sheet, and then you start building the world out around the players. No, you don't. This doesn't need to be a hex crawl, although it could be that way. And as the players expand out of their community, they can see the shifting and changing of the world around them. And then these are different sectors and their names, overview, points of interest, distinctive features, things like that. Basically, building a dungeon or world out from where they're at, to the point that you may not know what a different sector has. And you might go, oh man, I need to make 2 more sectors. Let me go ahead and write something down. And so it gives you a little worksheet, NPC worksheet. Sometimes players will acquire NPCs to help them out, followers and things like that, and use them to build them into major player characters as well. Um, a support NPC can live at the community that the players are taking care of, and they have a starting point of no return of 10 and a soma of 7, which kind of represents them and the people that they can count on. So it's not really just them. And then, oops, we do have another NPC community character sheet and key NPCs and what they do. So a lot of stuff that you can copy and paste. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate the fact that you let me do this. So thank you very much for letting me show you Dead Air Seasons. Also, let's see if there's something else. Nah, I'm not. I guess I could show you this other game here. Come on. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Is it showing up? No, it is not showing up. Let's switch. Um, Sorry. This is Dead Air Brave New World. And Brave New World, and as you can see all the stuff growing up. The Statue of Liberty even has like a spore flowers at its very top. Um, yeah, pretty funny. Yeah, and you got to have your powerful monuments and locations. And Brave New World basically is another book that um, adds to this role playing game. Adds other features and capabilities. Like for example, these are new archetypes that are available, like the soldier and different gifts that the soldier can have. Um, there's even archetype that's based called the Provectus. The Provectus has Blight inside of them, and you can play one of those characters. And what is the Provectus are easily identified by their jade green iris crown, which shines brightly when they manifest their unique gifts. So yes, you can play a character that is mutated um, by the Blight. And where's some really cool artwork here? We'll show you this. The Crimson Hunter. This is a character who specializes in um, hunting down the awakened, and navigating through crimson clouds and crimson fields of spores and what exists in those areas. And then, of course, we have this book is filled with communities, and it goes through um, communities and thematic sectors. These sectors may, here we go. Here's one. The Metal Graveyard, and it talks about like overview, some keywords, because like I said, this is more of a story game. So stranded ships, rust, containers, noise of drops in the distance, probably drops of water, maybe brackish water, birds, twisted metal, echo, torn sails flapping with the wind, seaweed, burning sand, unrelenting sun. And those keywords help you describe and get a feeling for what the place is. Like I said, this is more story than plot. And then it talks about different points of interest within that place, like a bay, industrial foundry, port dock. Um, there's an ice islet or icelet. There's some distinctive features, and those are more numerical, and what dangers there are, potential settlements, things like that, people of interest. And it goes on and describes many of these. Um, Here's another one, using cable cars to go from place to place. Where the Eagles Dare is another one. Overview, keywords, And again, these are like quantum locations. You can drop them into your setting, decide what they are about, but you could also just the players control how they integrate into the game. So, guys, good discovery for me. This game is Happy Vice Day. Well, thank you very much. Happy Vice Friday. Yeah, enjoy your Thursday. Again, Dead Air Seasons. Um, Dead Air, Brave New World is a secondary book created in the world of the from the online resource known as the World Anvil. And this game has an SRD and an OGL. It has an open gaming license and an SRD that's free. The SRD is 115 pages, although it's pretty substantially high print. There's a lot of empty space in it, so don't be daunted. Like 115 pages for a game that, but yes, you can make up your own games. Mind you, you can't make up something for this. This already exists. Dead Air Seasons already exists, and so guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for letting me introduce this unique deceptive dice roll system where rolling more dice isn't always better. Um, and so thank you very much. Please, I'm going to roll 4 dice. If I come up with the one, the show go, oh, I did not roll a 1. Yeah. Yeah. So guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. I'll see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Damn, I didn't even ask for a call to action. You guys know what that is. I'll see you later. Bye.